environment. You can find snakes in all types of habitats. You can find them down on the ground slithering. You can even find some slithering around in the water that like to live in rivers and ponds and stuff like that. And you can also find some animals, some snakes that like to hang out in the trees, and Delilah is one of those snakes. See, she's got some pretty cool ways to do that. Not only does she have that really long body to help her move around, she has what's called a prehensile tail, meaning that she can fully support herself with just her body weight alone. She might demonstrate that for us if Ben gives her the option. There we go. Yes, she is incredibly strong with just her tail. If we were as strong as Miss Delilah is, we'd be able to hang from the monkey bars by just our toes and pull ourselves up into a standing position. Absolutely fascinating. Please do not go home and try that. You will not be successful. But snakes are also incredibly wonderful because they help with pest control. Does anybody have an idea of what snakes like to eat? Little kids, right?
Yeah.
No, they like to eat mice and rats and rodents and things like that. And while those animals can be very cute, they can also carry a lot of diseases. If a pair of rats is left unchecked, they can become 500 million rats in just 3 years. So snakes really help keep those populations in check. And they're able to do that because they are carnivores. They're going to be hunting. And they've got to use their senses to be able to do that. And now all snakes have an incredible sense of smell. And they don't smell with their noses the way that we do. They actually smell with their tongues. So they're going to flick out their forked tongue in and out of their mouths and pull it back into their mouth and rub it on the roof of their mouth on something called a Jacobson's organ. It's kind of like a tiny computer that helps them decode that scent. And because their tongues are forked, they can tell the difference between if a smell is coming from the left or if a smell is coming from the right. Now, a lot of people are afraid of venomous snakes, but Miss Delilah here, she is not venomous. In fact, the majority of snakes out there in the world are not venomous. Instead, these snakes are going to be using something called constriction. So that is where they're going to lash out at their prey, squeeze it tight until it stops breathing, and then they're going to swallow it whole. Now, we cannot swallow our food whole. We've got to chew it up, but snakes don't have really arms and legs to be able to hold on to things and tear bites out of it. Instead, they've got some pretty cool things in their skull to help them with that. First of all, a lot of their bones are manipulable in their skull, so they can change the size of their head. They can open their jaws about 130 degrees vertically. Not only that, they don't have a chin bone like we do, so they instead have a ligament that helps them open their jaws horizontally as well. They've also got some hook-like teeth that help them hold onto their prey and help it move down their throat. Now, as these snakes are swallowing their prey whole, it can take a little bit. So how are they breathing? Well, God has even thought of that. They have a little bit of their lung called their trachea that is going to be sticking out kind of like a snorkel as they are swallowing their food, so they are able to breathe. Now, a lot of people look at snakes like this and say, I want a snake as a pet. She is gorgeous. Ben looks really cool holding her. I want to look really cool holding a snake and have a snake in my home. And when they do that, a lot of people forget to do their research when it comes to that. Snakes, even though they are incredible animals out in the wild, they do take a lot of care and maintenance in your home. Miss Delilah here, she's got to have a very large habitat because though she's very skinny, she is very long. And snakes like to be able to stretch out. Delilah's about 6 feet long. That means she needs a 6-foot-long habitat. A lot of people do not have the space for that. On top of that, snakes need to be able to have certain temperature and humidity parameters in order to stay happy and healthy snakes. They are ectothermic, meaning they don't regulate their own body temperature. So it's up to their owners to regulate their environment for them so they can stay healthy at a healthy temperature. Not only that, when snakes shed their skin, they need a certain level of humidity in order to be able to do it all in one piece and not have a whole lot of issues. So a lot of people will get snakes because snakes start out really, really small in the pet store. And you think, oh my goodness, they're so cute. It's just a little tiny noodle that I can stick in a box and it's gonna be great. Well, then that little noodle grows really, really, really big. And some people can get very overwhelmed very quickly. And instead of rehoming them responsibly, sometimes people will just release them into the wild. Now, is that being a good steward of God's creation? No, it is not, for one of two reasons. Number one, if you release an animal that is not native to its environment, native to the environment that you are living in, they could pass away. They're not native to those environments probably aren't great for them. If you were to release a reptile out in Kentucky, our winters get really, really cold, and oftentimes those lizards or snakes can't handle that kind of cold, so they could pass away. Or the opposite could happen, and they could thrive, and then create more baby snakes, and more baby snakes, and more baby snakes, and then you get something called an invasive species. The Taiwan beauty snake is actually invasive on the island of Okinawa in Japan because people got these animals that were very, very gorgeous, got overwhelmed, and then released them. And now they are wreaking havoc on the native bat population. So if you're thinking about getting an animal, please do your research. So that was our nice little slithery friend that taught us about how to be good stewards of pets and invasive species. But there is yet another, a little bit more fuzzy friend that we're going to be meeting. He is native to Australia. His name is Michael. So whenever he is ready, there he is. This is Michael. He is one of our sugar gliders. These guys are native to the forest regions of Australia, and they're called sugar gliders because their favorite food is bugs. You guys are so smart. You got it right on the money. No, they do love sugar as well. They eat things like fruit and nectar and sap and all that kind of stuff. And they're called gliders because they glide, just as Michael showed off right now. They also are able to move around up in the trees because they are arboreal animals, meaning they are living their lives almost fully in the tree. There we go. So how is the sugar glider able to glide? Well, they've got some pretty cool ways that they're able to do that as well. First of all, they've got a patagium, which is a thin skin flap that connects their wrists and their ankles. So when they want to glide somewhere, they're going to jump, spread their body in an X formation, and catch the breeze. They can catch the breeze up to 150 feet in their native environments, which is impressive for something that's our size. But for something that's as little as Mikey, that's even more impressive. They're also going to be using their really long tails to help steer them through their environment. And they're so skilled at that they can catch bugs in mid-air. These guys are amazing. Now, you might think that Gabriel, he's not Gabriel, that's our other sugar glider. You might be thinking that Michael is a little mouse, but he's actually not a rodent at all. He looks like a flying squirrel that we have here in the United States, but he's actually a marsupial. Flying squirrels are rodents, so they are completely different, even though they can look very similar. Now, one of the main defining characteristics of a marsupial is that they have very, very short pregnancies. Mikey here was born after a 19-day pregnancy. Yeah, that's crazy. And also, his mother had a pouch. So after he was born in that 19-day pregnancy, he was able to crawl into his mother's pouch and then grow up into this big, strong sugar glider that we see today. These guys typically stay around 100 grams, which is absolutely massive, right? No, he's a little itty-bitty, teeny, tiny little guy. So marsupials are really amazing animals. And the sugar glider themselves are really cool because they're nocturnal. So they're going to be asleep during the day and awake during the night. And they've got some really big black eyes to help them see in those dim lighting. So these guys, amazing. They also live in family groups of up to 7, and then those family groups will form colonies as well with much larger ways. So they've got to be able to tell the difference between a sugar glider that's part of their family and a sugar glider that's not part of their family, and a way to mark their territory, right? They're going to be communicating typically through scent. So we can tell that Mikey over here is a boy because he has a bald patch on top of his head. And that's not because he's an old man, that is actually his scent gland. So if he were to have joeys of his own, he would rub that scent gland on them, and whenever he needed to figure out if the joeys he was interacting with were his, he'd just go, yeah, that one doesn't smell like my kid, let's go over here. Yep, that one has the right stink, that's mine. So they also will communicate with a number of chirps and barks and crabbing, which is Mikey's favorite noise to make. It sounds kind of like and the mothers actually will sing it to their joeys as well. So they are wonderful little critters, and a lot of people, when they see Mikey, go, oh my goodness, I need to have a sugar glider as a pet. And I'm going to strongly discourage you from having a sugar glider as a pet. And there are several reasons why. Number one, they are illegal in some states, so you have to check your local laws. Also, like I said, they're nocturnal animals, so they're going to be awake when you are trying to sleep, and they're going to be making all kinds of noises, trying to communicate and all of that kind of stuff, which it can sound pretty cute if you're in the mood to hear that, but at 3 o'clock in the morning it can be very annoying. These guys are also arboreal animals, meaning they're living up in the trees. So do arboreal animals care where they go to the bathroom? No, they do not. And as Mikey so wonderfully demonstrated, they are going all the time. So they aren't the ones that have to clean it up, right? Anyways, so also these guys have very high maintenance diets and care. They have very specific formulated diets that they need to have, and they also have teeny tiny little fingernails that you need to clip every 2 weeks. And they don't like when you try to clip their fingernails. So they're going to be fighting you the whole time. It's very, very difficult. So if you are thinking of getting a snake, or a sugar glider, or a dog, or a cat, or really any animal as a pet, I highly encourage you to do your research. Make sure that animal fits into your lifestyle as you have it now. You're probably not going to be a different person in a few weeks when you get a sugar glider than you are right now, right? Probably not. So just do your research, and always remember Proverbs 12:10, which tells us that whoever is righteous has regard for the life of their beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. Now that doesn't just include your little fluffy beasts, but it also includes your slithery and scaly beasts as well. So if you guys have any questions, I will be down here at the yellow line to answer them. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day here at the Ark Encounter.